What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're in the garage again with Liam and his couple motors. We're playing a little bit of motor musical chairs right here. So if you remember in the last episode, we took the old motor apart that we had broken recently. Two of the pistons decided to, exit the building. That'd be hard to take out. Oh, yeah. Dude, it's still good. That was probably the one that was just completely disintegrated and scattered a bunch of debris everywhere. And so there's only so many things that we're gonna be able to take out of that motor, unfortunately. So we are waiting for a couple of things to come in so that we can put into this motor to get it to the same point that one was. 1,000 horsepower capable and a stock bottom end. It really only requires a couple of things. A good set of head gaskets. So we use just stock LS9 head gaskets, ARP head studs, some stock LS7 lifters, and a good valve spring and retainer setup. We use factory rockers and push rods. And we've been able to get away with that so far. A lot of other guys, they'll use an aftermarket cam that requires, a bunch of RPM to actually utilize the power. We use a stock Z06 cam. That's what's in here, but obviously that got damaged. So I'm not too sure yet what cam we're going to use, but hopefully I want to get something that kind of caters to the same power band as we had before. Not something that falls off up top, but not something that requires a whole lot of RPM. So we were only spinning the thing to like 7,000, 7,200 at the highest. But most of the time we were operating in like the, 5,000 to 6,800 range. So a lot of cams can cater the power down there, but a lot of the aftermarket ones that have like the big chop and everything, they're meant for, 7,000 and above. So I don't want to get one of those because I think we just try to always spin it as low as possible. It's just easier on parts for the most part. So while we wait for those things, we have a couple of things that we can do in the meantime. One of those things is the fuel pressure regulator. So the one that we're using is just the standard smaller Holley one. And one of the problems that we ran into once we added the second fuel pump was we weren't able to keep our base fuel pressure down. That second pump flows enough fuel that that regulator at the same position, actually at any position, was not able to lower the base fuel pressure down below like 90 PSI. And that's obviously way too high. We could work around it, and obviously we did, but it was a pain not to be able to just set base fuel pressure at idle and then, know above that how it was gonna react. The way we were doing it here, the information that I had to input into the computer was false because the base fuel pressure that I was telling it was actually set at, let's say 60 PSI. It was actually sitting at 90 PSI at idle. So the injectors weren't actually operating like they were supposed to, so it kind of messed with idle a little bit. Not a huge deal, obviously, when we're going to racing, because once we started consuming some fuel out of the rails, it started acting normal. Base pressure, like once you got on the throttle and had a decent amount of RPM, if you weren't making any boost, you could see what the base fuel pressure was, because once it got to about 0, that fuel pressure was essentially your base. So we were able to get around it, but I'd really like to get this thing to act the way it's supposed to. And so one of the things that we're going to try, a friend of ours, Jeff Dean, gave me a call and said, hey, I had both of those same exact pumps, and all I did was drill out the orifice a little bit in here, and it idles, and we're able to set base fuel pressure no problem. So we're going to tackle that. I also got to take this turbo apart because we had so much debris being sent through the exhaust. I want to see if that exhaust wheel got hurt at all. On the outside of it, it doesn't look like anything, but I'm going to take that housing off and make sure none of the fins inside the housing got messed up. If it did, we have another turbo that we can use, but it's significantly smaller, capable of significantly less power, but we could probably make it work. Honestly, we don't use a crazy amount more power than what that turbo was able to handle with this one. And then also the injector clips. So the injectors that we have right now actually take these plugs. And so right now we're using some adapters, and they're pretty cheap. So if you look at the adapters that we're using right now, it goes from an EV1 style injector clip and then goes to those that we had over there. And unfortunately, I mean, one, I don't like to have multiple points of failure, but two, these are made out of pretty cheap plastic. Like 2 of them broke before we even plugged them in. So I'd like to eliminate points of failure, especially on something as important as the injectors. And so hopefully I can just depin these and they slip into that other plug. But if we have to, that plug kit came with its own pins. So we might just have to cut the wires and crimp on some new pins and then put the new plug bodies on there. So if we ever had to go back to that plug type, I mean, it's not a huge deal. We can just cut them again and put them on there. Unfortunately, every time we do that, we'll have shorter and shorter wires. But I really don't think that we'll ever use a different injector plug than these, because this plug, basically, we can get whatever size we want. If we wanted to step down injector size or for some reason go up, we can find a set of injectors that use that same plug. So it's kind of a no-brainer. We can just go ahead and upgrade. But yeah, that's what we got going on. So we'll dive right into taking this apart, and I got to see what Jeff was even saying we're actually drilling out. I've never actually taken apart one of these, so we'll pop it apart now and see what we're looking at. Okay, so I took the regulator hat off, and we're looking at the inside of this. So this has a little bucket for this thing to actually go down to put some preload on that. This is the actual diaphragm that seals in there. And then, to my surprise, the actual sealing surface on this piece that seals up against the regulator body itself, the return pathway, is flat. I thought it was going to be a ball and seat type thing. So that's why I was worried about drilling out this pathway and then making sure that the taper was still, you know, the right taper to fit the ball. But this being flat, I think this is going to be a heck of a lot easier. I think I could just drill out that pathway, and it should technically allow me to, you know, be able to return more fuel. I think that's all that's going on. I mean, if you think about that, the fuel's coming in on both sides, here and here, filling up this area right here. And this thing, depending on how much pressure I have on top of it, is either sealing up against this, not allowing any fuel to go back through this pathway, or you know, having the fuel pressure that's building up in here lift this up against the spring pressure and the boost pressure that we put on top of it to allow fuel to go in there. Now, I mean, if you look at that hole, it's super, super tiny. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess it makes sense now that the -6 line is definitely not my restriction. This little guy is. I mean, that's a tiny, tiny hole compared to, you know, the hole in a -6 line. So, yeah, I think if I just drill that out, now I don't know if I'm going to be able to drill this out enough for it to, you know, still be able to regulate pressure. This regulator just may not have a large enough body, a large enough orifice to work for the amount of fuel that we have to bypass. So hopefully it does. I'll try drilling that out, and then we'll just have to see. If there's still not enough area for it to pass through, then it's going to still show too high of a base fuel pressure at idle, and we'll just have to get a bigger regulator in there, unfortunately. So, but it's worth a try. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so I got the turbo out of the housing. I'm going to try to zoom in on this with the software, but you can kind of see a little bit. There's only one wheel, or one fin on this wheel that it looks like this, but it's a little bit dinged right on the corner. Now, all of these have some residue on them. Like I looked at the wheels and they all looked really, really jagged, but I realized, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but the majority of it is aluminum deposits on top of the wheel. So, I mean, that's no big deal. I could probably just, you know, take something slightly abrasive and get all of that off. The one that I'm worried about is this one right here. This one is actually bent. It's not supposed to be that shape right there. If you look at this one, that's the shape that it's supposed to be. So we did bend one little fin. To be honest with you, man, I don't know if I really care about that. I could probably stick this back in there and I'd never notice. I mean, I'm assuming that this happened when the motor let go, because obviously we sent a bunch of debris through there. It makes sense that it would be there, but it doesn't look like anywhere else on the fins got affected. It's just literally this one little one got dinged. So I don't know. I'm going to talk to a couple of guys and see if they think that this is fine to run, or if they would send it in to get a new wheel or get fixed. I don't know. I mean, the way I am, I doubt I'm going to worry about this. We'll probably just slap it back in there. But if for some reason it is something that, you know, people say, oh, well, it might ruin the rest of it, but I mean, shaft play and everything feels great. The turbo feels great, except for just that one little ding. But worst case scenario, I have the old 75 that used to be in here, fits into this same exact housing. So I could literally just slap this back on the motor and fit in the actual 75 millimeter, and we can run that. I know, you know, what changes I need to make to the calibration to work with that one. So it wouldn't be a huge deal, but I don't know, we'll see. So we'll talk to a couple of turbo guys that are smarter than me and see what they think. But that's not too bad. I was hoping, you know, for something like this, not like, you know, missing fins or big gouges taken out of them or, you know, all bent up. So it's not really bad considering we sent 2 pistons through it. Okay, so here's the regulator. I've already started drilling this out, so I didn't show what it was beforehand. It was like 0.137, somewhere around there, and so we're trying to just punch this out, you know, 30 or 40 or so. So now what it currently is 171, and it was 137. So I think that's probably going to be enough. That's what our buddy Jeff said. He said maybe 30 or 40 is all it's going to take. So I'll just finish drilling this all the way through. Right now it's just drilled up at the very top so I could measure it and see, you know, how much further we needed to go. But I did this really carefully because this looks like an insert, and I wish I tried doing a quick search to see if Holley sold different inserts that we could just press into here, because the body is aluminum and this is steel. And so what I was hoping was you could just buy another one of these inserts, you know, pop this one out and then press another one in. But since I can't, we're forced to drill this out, and what I'm worried about is that if I heat this up too much while drilling, you know, that it'll come loose and, you know, pop out, and then we're only going to have this other surface down here, and I don't know if it'll seal up against that. Like, I don't know if that has enough throw to go, you know, down that far enough, or if that'll pretty much screw it up. So trying to retain this top sealing surface. So I've just been going really slow. This is like the 3rd step that I've done, which is probably totally unnecessary, but what I'm making sure is that as I'm drilling, I'm putting as little pressure and as little RPM as possible so that it'll do as little heat as possible. So yeah, this will probably be the last step. And so yeah, this will probably be the last step, and we should be good, and we'll just give that a try. Like I said, worst case scenario, it doesn't work and I just get another regulator. We'll be in the same spot that we're in right now. All right, so we got this thing punched out. It is now 174. It was 137, so like 37. I was told, you know, between 30 and 40, so pretty much on the larger side of that range. So hopefully this works good. Actually, if you look at it from the other side, you can actually kind of get a better idea. You're not gonna be able to see it from in there, but we're a heck of a lot closer to the inner diameter of that actual fitting hole. So like where these fittings taper right here, the diameter of this hole on a -6, we're pretty close to that. Obviously it's a little bit more. We'd probably have to go out another like 20, 25, somewhere around there to get to that. But I think this is gonna be enough. And if it's not enough, we can always just pop this out and drill it out a little bit more, and then we should be okay. But yeah, so that's good, all done there. This thing, so I talked to a couple of people and pretty much every single one of them laughed at me about even being slightly concerned about that little ding. I can't even figure out, oh, there it is. So this little guy.
Oh, that little guy. I wouldn't worry about that little guy. Good enough for me.
So this turbo is still gonna be good. We're gonna just plop it back into the housing and we'll use it unless for some reason it shows that it's hurt, and then we still have the 75 if it is. Lastly, the injector clips. I went ahead and just took these in the house and changed them out while we were live going over a couple of things. But yeah, so now these are the injector clips that we have on here. I like this way better than having an adapter on here. They didn't sit right. The plugs were cheap as shit. These are nice quality plugs. The plastic's way better, and it's just nice having them properly terminated in there. So now we know at least those won't be a problem. So we're good there. That's pretty much it for now. We got a couple of little things that we might take care of here soon. There's not really a whole lot that we can do prepping the motor, but maybe in the next video we'll do a little bit more of that if we don't have all of the parts to complete it. Because I kind of want to do that for a whole video, us doing the entire motor portion of it all at once. So I don't really want to get started on it until we have the parts that we need. But if they don't show up before next weekend, we'll probably just go ahead and get started on it, start prepping it and everything and then we'll just finish it up whenever we get the rest of the stuff, because it's going to take us a decent amount of time to switch the valve springs out of the old heads, so we can at least get the heads done. Maybe not mess with the bottom end stuff until we get the other crap that we need. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and the next video, I'm not too sure if it's going to be of us at the track with Murda. We're actually going to the track with him Saturday, and it's basically going to be an all-day thing. So from like 9 a.m. till like 10 or 11 at night, we're going to be working with his car, going for his goal of hitting a 7. I kind of wanted to do a 4 in the 8th, a little bit more than I wanted to do a 7, but the 7 is his goal, so that's what we're going to go for. He made a couple of changes to it. I think it'll be all we need to make his goal. So either more of Liam or that video of us hopefully getting a 7 is going to be the next one. So also don't forget, we have enabled the join feature. Be a part of the actual channel. We're going to have some private sessions and some extra content that is only available to the people that have joined the channel. So if you guys go back to the Slower Than You page, you'll see a join button available. Click on that. It'll give you some details about what's going on with it. It's a monthly subscription basically, and it gives you a bunch of extra content. We're going to be doing live sessions that'll be only available to the people that are joined to the channel. We're also going to have extra content, like some of the street content will only be available to the members on the channel, and just a bunch of other content. We might start doing some sessions where we can bring people from the channel actually on so they can talk, and we can have, you know, kind of a podcast scenario where we're just talking back and forth instead of just responding to you guys in the chat. So check that out. I'd really appreciate it. It helps us you know, get some more steady revenue in so that we can apply it to the channel, make better videos for you. Yeah, hopefully we will see you in there.